with the welfare of the Ummah at large, concerned more about the distractions and deviations that are there in terms of assisting us being on the straight path. We make the dua of Ihdina Sirat al-Mustaqim. Allah Ta'ala, we ask Allah Ta'ala to keep us on the straight path. And we know as the tafsir of Surah Fatiha is concerned, in this particular verse it is mentioned, that on the sides, the straight path is that path which a person is treading, and on each side of the walls, there's gaps and openings. And at each point, there is someone calling to that person to get away from that path. And the challenges and the motive Shaitan uses for each person is different. But somehow you are going to be distracted in some way or the other, or the Ummah will be distracted in some way or the other from reaching our objective and our goal. Shaitan has mentioned, لَأَتِيَنَّهُمْ مِنْ بَيْنِ أَيْدِيهِمْ وَمِنْ خَلْفِهِمْ وَعَنْ أَيْمَانِهِمْ وَعَنْ شَمَائِلِهِمْ. So respected ulama kiram, it is very noble that you have taken time out actually to be here today, because your concern is how we can assist our ummah. People you could see at one time were probably listening to every word that you said, but later on you hear somehow they've addicted to something, they didn't know how to get out of it. It started very small. They say with this thing here, it starts off with OPS, and the person ends up with LSD. You know what's OPS? Anybody? Other people's stompies. Then you go to something later on. But anyway, I'm sure the experts in the field will talk to us about that. But just for us, in terms of encouragement and understanding, really the time you spend here is noble. The time, the fikr you're here for is rewarding. The fact that you are here that, oh Allah, I want you to help me. That I see this particular, maybe my musalli, a colleague of mine, somebody who I was in school with, somebody who I knew so well, is suddenly now living another life completely. He's in another world completely, in a world of his own. And he thinks he's getting fun and enjoyment. He thinks that's where his pleasure is. He thinks that's the best, because he never get a feeling like the feeling that I've got, according to his own world. But to get him out from there, to understand that the world that we are in, the reality of this, and how you can save him from breaking his family, you can save him from breaking society, you can save him for himself as an individual to continue to do that which is correct. So it's a lot, and I'm sure we'll learn from the experiences of those who are here. And I must also compliment the organization itself for rating such a program, and also with Maulana who is heading it. It takes a lot, because there isn't a quick fix solution to these things. It has to be with understanding. Whenever I'm speaking to a group of people and our students and they're graduating, we normally tell them that you must take this lesson. Maybe I'll just leave that with you. The lesson of the pencil. The lesson of the pencil. They say there was a pencil maker. A pencil maker. So he was putting the pencil in the box, and he gives this pencil advice. So I'm giving you 5 pieces of advice. So the first one is that to function, you need to be in somebody's hand. Number 2, the most important part of you is a part that's inside, the lead. Number 3, if you make any mistakes, there's an eraser on top, you can remove that. Number 4, now and again you need a bit of sharpening. And lastly, he told the pencil, whichever surface that you go on, you'll make an impression. But just translate that into our lives. If you want to be good, you want to be guided, you need to be in somebody's hand. You need to ensure that you're in somebody's hand, you're taking the right guidance. 1. Number 2, the most important part of you is not how beautiful I look, or what's the external part of me, but what is my heart, what is the inside part of me? What do I have in terms of my intentions, this qalb of mine, how salim it is? Number three, we all make mistakes in life. Just like that pencil got in the eraser, we can make tawbah and make a U-turn. Allah will give us an opportunity. Number four, sometimes some things we need to do for our own betterment are not so pleasant. Like a pencil getting sharpening. It's not so pleasant. But remember, wherever you go, whether you like it or not, just as a pencil is passed on any surface, it leaves a mark or an impression. You leave a mark or an impression wherever you go. May that mark be a good one. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala use us for the sake of His deen. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala save us from distractions as well. Allah keep us at Sirat al-Mustaqim, make us live with Iman, die with Iman, and resurrect us with Iman as well, and convey the same meaning to the same message to others. Allah ta'ala accept the effort of one and all.
Jazakumullah khairan for those valuable piece of advice. Mashallah, inshallah. Now we'll go to this hand over to Maulana Zakaria Marti and his team, inshallah, who will take us through the ABCs of addiction. So starting off from the primary level of information, inshallah, taking us all the way to the solutions and what should we do.
Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. The introduction has been done. Alhamdulillah, ahlan wa sahlan once again. And I'm not going to be doing much speaking, mashallah. You know, when you plant water the seed and the seed grows and develops into a beautiful tree. So our counselor is here, our former patients are here. We shall let them speak, inshallah. It's to show the fruits of the efforts Allah has allowed us to do, inshallah. So very topic we need to understand the Islamic, that particular topic. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, I think we already it's absolutely clear. Allah speaks about inna al-khamr wal maisir wal anam. Allah describes this aspect of Allah describes it in two ways. For us to understand, excrete, I think that we have an aversion towards naturally. So we take that as the example, and the translation of the word reads absolute filth. Allah is describing intoxicants as filth. No sane person will take a piece of excreta and put it into his system. No one will do that. Which was joint. Allah is saying it is filth. This is something we need to conscientize the youth, that Allah is describing this entire intoxication, whether it's substance, alcohol, whatever is there on the market, all the types of drugs. Allah is saying that it is filth. So we need to develop this mindset that Allah is telling me that this is not good for me, not good for my physical health, my spiritual health. And then Allah says, Min amali shaitan. Second description. It is from the handwork, from the tricks of shaitan. Just explain now, Sirat al-Mustaqim, shaitan stickers. Shaitan puts many imperatives to go forward. One of his very powerful tools is this. I was telling the kids yesterday at one of the programs, drugs, D-R-U-G-S. The long and short of it is that shaitan is burning with revenge. Because of Adam, I was made shame. Because of Islam. This burning revenge, I want to get back, not only to Adam, but also to him comes. Right? So what's drugs? Devils. The revenge are you upon GS. Seen this. I'll give you a quick stat. South Africa has just over 5 million active users. How many? 5 million. Or probably plus minus 60 million. There's just over 5 million active users in South Africa. And rehabilitation, we've got about 70,000 beds. This is how serious the problem is. And Shaitan uses this tool because, you know, the example I gave the kids, it's when a person is intoxicated, Shaitan takes control of his life. So the example I gave them was, you become Shaitan's soccer ball. It's a soccer ball on the foot of Ronaldo or Messi. He'll kick you and turn you and how he wants to. That is what happens. So let's move ahead because it's so much. The program is very long. Inshallah, Allah give us barakah. I'll just run through the table of contents of what aspects we're going to be discussing this morning, inshallah. So there are 6 different sessions we have. The first session is Introduction to Substance Abuse. Session 1. Session 2, Risk Factors and Warning Signs. Session 3, Prevention Strategies. Session 4, Support and Intervention. Session 5, Handling Sensitive Issues. And finally, Session 6 is in front of you. We have sort of condensed it, the action plan and the wrap-up. And you'll see it there. So we managed to just to print that last because if you had to print this entire table of contents, it would have been over 100 pages. Right. So inshallah, I will now hand over to Brother Wasim, who is our drug addiction counselor. Wasim has many years of experience in recovery himself. Now for many years he's clean, alhamdulillah. And he will start off the program and inshallah we'll continue from there.
Assalamu alaikum, everybody. My name is Wasim. I'm an addiction counselor, but I'm also a recovering addict. So what I tell you today is from ground level, from having been there myself, from having been in the position of being addicted. And a lot of my experience, strength, and hope will be shared through this program today, you know. What's important for us is that we understand what we're dealing with, number one. We work in a rehabilitation center, Muldersdrift Wellness Center, and we work in conjunction with Darul Ihsan with the drug awareness drive. And the dynamic of what drugs are in our country is changing. Drugs are more freely available. It is there's today you can walk into stores and buy weed over the counter. You know, how we deal with the situation and how we deal with the scourge of drugs has to change as well. The only way to do that is to keep evolving, to keep educating ourselves, and as Maulana shared with us, to stay sharp about this topic. So the objective of the session is to educate and explore substance abuse and how to identify and handle substance abuse cases within your community or learning environment. Please, I do encourage that if you have any questions, please make a note and we will go into a group discussion as well. Understanding substance abuse versus addiction. So a lot of times what we found in our experience is that when somebody is using, people automatically make the assumption that that person is now in addiction. There's a difference between substance abuse and addiction. And I think a very important part is understanding that. So I see some of the brothers are looking for where I'm reading this from. This is our information pack, right? We are going to send the link out to you guys. It's over 100 pages. It's not available anywhere else. It was put together especially for this workshop. The reason for this booklet is at the back of it, it's got a glossary of narcotics that you may come across in your respective fields. And what we wanted to do was we wanted to create something that we can build on from here.
as well as something that when you go back into your respective fields, you now have a handbook, you have a guide that you can refer back when it is relevant. To understand substance abuse, the definition of substance abuse refers to the misuse or excessive use of a substance such as alcohol or drugs leading to negative consequences. This includes using substances despite knowing the harm they cause physical health, mental well-being, or social relationships. And I think to better understand this, if you explain this, one of the brothers who have recently come out of treatment in our facility has offered to give some of them for brother asking.
Firstly, I'd just like to say, I feel like all this out at home. It's good to be honest. Ended around this center for 4 months, 5 years ago. I came back home, I stayed clean for around 2 months, and I relapsed. Right? And before I just talk about what the same asked me to try to explain, and then simply because we have not problem before. That any need the support structure after you come out. If I didn't follow, if I was strong enough to handle it, and it's just again the down doesn't emotional aspect. I am stronger in with that comes everything else. So going to the topic and now to just elaborate. I went through a very difficult 3 years of marriage. I was married for 3 years. My second part of my 3 year marriage of the 6 years of depression, of anger, whatever personal reasons and issue that I basically personally faced with my wife and all the pressures that and I was in Johannesburg and we used to push it around hours in the office. And myself, I was slipping into a depression. But just to give you guys some history, prior to all of these things happening, I've never been alcohol, consumed alcohol. My buddies on varsity days would on a Friday we would go and experiment and pop ecstasy pills for the night. And I got one day back to varsity and it was so that was the history of me before I went to shit. And yeah, was because I was 6 o'clock, I was walking my lady in the office. And one of my colleagues actually like, that was happening, just self over the past few months and there's a change in your appearance, So I'm going through my own issues. I think I'm still going to education. It's now been 3 years. I'm still facing with difficulties and my husband challenges. We don't understand, let's go down to this car. I just thought it's going to be a normal small break. Wanted to see check. And we pulled out this Bible and pulled out this small radius. What is this? This is because I didn't know what I knew crystal meth was a drug. I wasn't clued up on the awareness of it. I wasn't clued up. All I knew was drugs is dangerous, is addictive. So the strange part is that when we should drive around, everything is then these guys at the robots and like that's over there, you can tell the drug addict, the fully known drug addict. And you know, what do they living by? But they back to the point where she talked about this car, you know, like partnership use the custom get. And that's the knowledge that you feel. And you say whatever you've been through. Source of the problem. And at that point, I was throwing my slump. Own challenges. Not. And for the first time, this my God, I had three kids, I had three kids, and they are happiness. But it's a full. I was just too down to my own sorrow. And I went home happy, I went home smiling. Of the meeting that I get, personal issue that I face with my wife. And you know, a few days after that, I asked him where can I get it. He told me, and it was a weekly thing where I would buy a bag, like every third or fourth day. That is my coping mechanism. It was how I dealt with life. It was how you think that I actually being a father that used to give their children everything by spoiling them rotten as they would call it. By not saying you know, branded things, you know, what children was nothing. But then I would walk into areas and I go for anything that's not like, you know, things are the red. No, I need to buy a shoe. So I also need to buy my pants. And that's how I lived on 4 years after that. And you know, the lesson that I've taken as a lesson, you know, before college, you know, inshallah I will one day, it comes to us. And it's my pattern is I stay clean 6 months. I stay clean and I relapse due to pressures. I relapse. But at the time when you want to use, you know, I'll be honest here, we are here to lie. Rather yes in us. No, you understand. Yeah, and we are truly curious. I say yes, and rather I yes. Yes. I was wondering if you want to support. It sounds like it's the truth, you know. And that's what fighting like almost daily cravings for like 4 or 5 weeks, 6, 7, 8 weeks. And one morning I decided, you know, this is it. I'm gonna smoke. And you know what? The one thing that I'm conscious now is that I haven't dealt with some past issues that triggered me to use. And When I say that, I'd like to say that I using drugs, my own personal trauma that I've experienced. Drugs became my coping mechanism to function like a normal human being. And still in my mind, I tell myself I deserve it because life is not treating me well and life is not doing me good. And I deserve it, but I don't, you know. I still got some work to do on my recovery. I still got a lot of work, not some work, a lot of work that I need to do in the recovery. And things that I actually need to tackle in order to be a better Muslim for myself, a better father, a better son. All of it, you know. I'm going to leave the disgrace out of it, the shame that we bring to family. I'm going to leave all of that out, but you know, everyone's du'as, inshallah, please remember me in your du'as. And that's what I got to share. Jazakallah.
So, brothers and sisters, the reason that I asked Asif to share is so that we can identify and we can see from the horse's mouth, you know, where this thing goes. So when it comes to addiction, as Asif explained to us, he was going through a difficult time. He had some underlying issues. So this highlights another very important aspect of today's workshop. The drug is not the problem. The drug, at some point to the end user, was the solution to the problem. As Asif explained, when he smoked, he felt like he could cope. And the thing is that every substance abuser suffers with the same thing, inadequate coping skills. We are inadequately equipped to face life. Now, what happens here is we have a program. I've explained, he stopped working his program. So what does that mean? Example, we admit defeat. We admit acceptance. So we say, step one says that I am powerless over my addiction. My life has become unmanageable. Now, if I'm powerless over my addiction, that still leaves me with a problem. Powerlessness, this was my dilemma. Step two then comes to say that I came to believe that a power greater than myself could restore me to sanity. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is a power greater than myself. Islam is a power greater than myself. My deen is a power greater than myself. So at first, what do? I admit complete defeat. I become open. We say how? Open-minded and willing. Because you see, the problem with many addicts is we want to recover on our terms. We want to recover, but we don't want to put the work in. You know, because addiction is such a thing, it's instant gratification. I use now, I feel better right now. Life doesn't work that way. It takes a long time. So one of the main things that I want to touch on here was the difference between substance abuse and addiction. So we could clearly hear in Asif's story, when he started, this is known as the experimentation phase. This is when you give it a try, when you are first introduced. And this is the best time to curb it. This is the time when educators, ulama, people in the respective fields, imams, community leaders, muallimas, muallims, this is when we need to be able to identify it before it progresses to chronic addiction. To explain a little bit more about it in the demographic and the dynamic in our country at the moment, I'm going to call upon Mulana Marchi. He's going to play for you guys a short video and then we're going to elaborate on that. The weird one.
Yeah, that's you have to play.
The weird one.
No, it's not the weird one. The weird one's this is the thing. It's your just you want the sound business and nice now. So the same. There's things on the side. Maybe Huh? It's quite angular computer. Yeah. You check. The external speaker. No.
Okay, let's just, Asif, just find the mic, yeah?
This is the mic on here. Where's the speaker on this? It should be connected by your Bluetooth. Is that okay? Device TV monitor. You need to switch this off. How do you put this thing off? We just put the mic by the. Yeah, but this means. But where's the it should claim it. Which came off the TV monitor. You sure? Yeah. So this is a PowerPoint. Okay, all right. And normally we just use the mic and put it on. Okay, this is the one, right? No, that is. Just open it. Open it. Right. And back to the PowerPoint. And then open it on the full screen. Where's the stick? We need to find the speaker on here. There's the table and there's a problem there.
You
Volume was down. Yeah, no, but this.
South Africa is fast becoming a drug capital of the world. Lethal drugs from around the world are reaching our shores. South Africa has the dubious distinction of having the largest illegal drug market in sub-Saharan Africa. This poses a major threat to our youth and society. According to the Central Drug Authority, the substance abuse rate in South Africa amongst teenagers is spiraling out of control. In fact, 1 in 2 school children have already experimented with drugs. A study published in a prominent medical journal found that more than 60% of teenagers aged 18 regularly drink alcohol. Given this backdrop, ideally the best success in this battle against substance abuse comes from early education, as it is much easier to work with an educated community. People will understand the damages brought on by substance abuse. Darul Ihsan Humanitarian Center, through its drug awareness drive, has developed a sustained awareness program that highlights of the scourge and its impact on our lives. Our educational programs are held nationally and are being consistently enhanced, so our message and assistance can reach as many as possible. Hands-on guidance, counseling, and support is provided. We call on all South Africans to become proactive by supporting this noble initiative and adding your voice to save our future. Stay alive. Call us today to know how you can contribute.
So as the video highlights, South Africa at the moment is a melting pot of different cultures, different nationalities. And with this happening, trends from substance abuse are coming in from all different countries. We're no longer dealing with substances that were created in South Africa. Things from all over the world is coming in. We now have a variety of substances available to our youth. And with the change of the millennium and technology becoming more and more prominent. As you guys can see, I'm not too good with the technology, I'm good at working with people. But as things are changing, it makes it so much more accessible. I mean, I remember when I was a young man, I'm still a young man, but when I was a younger man, you couldn't access it as easily. Today, it's a WhatsApp away. It gets advertised on statuses. Today you can walk into a store and buy ultimately marijuana, which is a a mind-altering intoxicant. Now, when we look at marijuana, and many different people argue different things about it, right? But in a brain that is still developing, in a child, in a student whose mind is still coming to a point of development, we have to understand what substance does to the mind. Substance changes the way the brain works. It physically changes the way the brain works. So some of the things that we've got to understand when dealing with substance abuse is, first of all, what we are dealing with within our communities. And one of the most common ones is alcohol. The reason being, alcohol is socially accepted to some extent, not within our Muslim communities, but out of it. It is easily available, it is easily accessible, and this is one of the things. And the effects of alcohol can lead to impaired coordination, memory loss, liver disease, and addiction over prolonged use. Now, one of the things that is not very widely known is that alcohol has one of the worst withdrawal symptoms, even though it is legal. Another thing that we commonly find is a big problem is cannabis. And what we have to keep in mind and what we have to be clued up about today is that cannabis is not the cannabis we were dealing with 20 years ago. Today, the cannabis we are dealing with is grown in labs. It's grown with specialized equipment, with specialized chemicals to produce the most potent or toxic effect possible. Now we look at things like alcohol. If alcohol was the biggest problem because it was socially acceptable, have we not done exactly the same thing with marijuana? We are now allowing it in our communities. I took a drive with Molana the night we got here, and we must have passed about 5 or 6 cannabis stores, colorful, bright, and inviting stores. And who's it targeting? Who's it targeting? It's targeting our youth. It's targeting our guys. It's targeting our communities. Because what happens now, it's no more a hush-hush thing. The friends come, they pick up our children, our students go out in groups. And it's a thing of you walk into a store, you have a sit down like you in a restaurant. And that whole mindset of what I'm doing is not correct goes away because you are sitting in the open, you are ordering, a waiter comes to you. It's normalized now. And this is where we've got to take the fight to our students. We've got to take the fight to our communities. Because if we wait and we wait and we say, you know what, we are willing to help when somebody asks for help, then we're gonna lose this battle. This thing is growing fast. We've got to stand on the front lines and make ourselves available. We've got to talk about this. We've got to break that stigma that comes with substance abuse. I know a couple of years ago, one of my major challenges as an addiction counselor was that, especially in our Muslim communities, people don't want to talk about it because essentially it is haram. It's not something that is a recreational conversation, but rather a conversation that needs to be had. Our people need to know what is going on. Our children need to know what is going on. You know what? I've come across this thing where guys go to rehab and all kinds of excuses is made for the guy why he's not at home or why he's not around. The truth is, we need to say because he's gone to seek help. Because asking for help and taking that initiative is not easy. But what happens now when we say, you know what, this brother is gone, he's going to look for help. When he comes back, he's able to pass on the help that he got to another brother who's suffering. Before, we have an entire movement of youth who is passing this message of hope. Because ultimately, as Molana said, once you're in substance abuse and it sets its claws in you, you live in a self-made prison. They say addiction is the only prison where the locks are on the inside, you know, and that's what it's about. It's about becoming free. It's about building a life we want to live. So some of the things that we have to understand and to better understand those things, I'm going to give you guys some statistics.
Statistics and trends in substance abuse amongst youth. This is, bear in mind that this thing was put together within this week. So the statistics and trends we are giving you guys is relevant to South Africa at the moment. Global trends. Youth substance abuse varies globally, influenced by cultural, economic, and social factors. Common substances include alcohol, cannabis, stimulants, and opiates. And as I said, South Africa at the moment is a melting pot of different substances, with different cultures coming into our country, with different people, different parts of the world. It has brought us many new experiences, but also many new dangers. We need to equip ourselves to be able to deal with this thing on a holistic level. When we speak about holistic level, we speak about a program, and I'm going to get into that. A lot of you guys must be thinking, what is this program we speak about? So in 2008, substance abuse was recognized by the World Health Organization as a mental illness. Today, medical aids pay for it, company pays for treatments. It is something that is now recognized. And the reason that it's recognized is because it has the three major things to identify as a disease. Number one, it is progressive. Number two, there are side effects. And number three, it can be fatal. So it is globally recognized as a disease. Now, if we have a look on the screen and we see 90% of hardcore drug users started with weed. From weed to ecstasy. Around 30% of ecstasy users started with marijuana. From ecstasy to cocaine, approximately 40% of cocaine users started with ecstasy, and 25% of heroin users started with cocaine. Again, we look at the progressiveness of this disease. We say for a substance abuser, there's only three places you end up. And again, it has to do with this progression. We end up in institutions. So what happens is we may seek treatment. If that doesn't work, we end up in jails. And if that doesn't work, we end up dead. Now, who's this we I speak about? This we is our brothers and sisters. This we are the children who grew up in our neighborhoods. And what we need to do is we need to take this fight to the streets. We need to take it out there. We need to equip ourselves to be able to help these things, to deal with these underlying issues. Because a substance abuser is using the substance as a crutch to get through a difficult time that is having at home, through difficult emotions, through inadequate coping skills. When we learn to address these underlying issues, especially when we make safe environments where they can be identified, the need to use now gets taken away. That is how we start this war against drugs. So in South Africa, specific statistics in South Africa, youth substance abuse involves substances like cannabis, alcohol, methamphetamine. Factors contributing to abuse include peer pressure, socioeconomic status, and accessibility. So I'm going to hand over to Monana to speak about peer pressure, socioeconomic issues, and accessibility, and what are some of the challenges as a rehabilitation center that we face.
Okay, so Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim. So one of the key reasons why many of our youth fall into substances is the peer pressure. Peer pressure, not only of their colleagues, but peer pressure of the social media, the influences that they are following. And many of the guys that are at the center will tell you, when we interact with them, when we counsel them, that this is where I picked it up. I mean, Asif gave us his experience. He never used right till much later in life. But many of the youth today, this is a platform that's being exploited. It's being exploited. And what's happening is because they're following this influencer and the substance is actually being glorified through the entire, across the entire social media platforms, through movies, through different vloggers. These things are happening. Our youth are connected to these people. There was a case where a mother came to me and the father was using. So she was tucking her four daughters to sleep at night. The eldest daughter, when she came back, this child had fallen off to sleep and the child was sort of, the hand was hanging off the bed. when she observed the child's hand, the child had cut herself from her wrist going up right to the top. So the mother the next morning said to the child, and what is wrong? What are you doing? She says, no, I can't handle what's happening at home here. You and daddy are fighting all the time, and I take responsibility for you guys fighting, and the only way for me to deal with this is I came across this from someone I follow. So they say the best way to deal with your problems is to self-harm. Inflict physical pain to remove emotional pain. So I start taking a blade and cutting myself. Every time you and daddy fight, I cut myself more and more. So with peer pressure today, and when we were growing up, peer pressure was your school and madrasa friends, and it was limited to that. Now the world has become a global village. So you connected to everybody and anyone, and this is where many of our youth are picking up these things. Okay, so impact on education. Amongst the telltale signs, this is where we need our ulama, our muallima teachers to to be vigilant and observe your students. Observe your students, because many of them, you'll see this gradual losing of interest in their work, in their studies. And you notice this child is lost. The child is sitting in class, but he or she is blank. This is where we need our teachers and abas and muallimat to be very vigilant. Many children just need a shoulder to lean on. If you as a teacher, if you are open and you broach these topics, you talk about them, and you offer that support, that if something is wrong, come and talk to me. We know experts, we can consult with them. Many children, I've had dozens of experiences where when we got to the bottom of it, there was one experience when I was teaching many years ago when I started doing this work. This child came from a house where the father was using, the mother was using, the elder brother was using, the sister was using. This child was only in grade 4, and everybody in that house was a drug addict. So I observed as an ustad that something is wrong with this child. So I said to this little boy one day and said, tell me what is wrong. I know you got a very good memory, but why, when you come here, why are you so nervous and why are you not? He says, Marana, everyone in my house uses drugs, and everyone takes it out on me. They hit me when they can't get their drugs, when they can't get what they want. This particular child, when I'm shouting or reprimanding another child, and you see this child starts to go into a state of panic, then I realize something's wrong with this child. He comes from a house of total abuse of drugs, physical abuse, violence. That child is so sensitive to anybody raising their voice. It affects him. It impacts his heart, and he loses focus completely. So our environments at home. So it's important for our teachers to be vigilant of this. I just want to play this video, inshallah. We can touch on the gateway drugs. So initially, we discussed this also yesterday. The question came about with regards to vapes. Is it bad? How bad is it? Understand, Allah has created insan in such a way that we normally progress or we retrogress. When parents take it to be light, it's not something too bad. It's a vape. You've already given the child the habit of an oral fixation. It's very easy for that child now to move to cigarettes, from there to move to weed, and from there to move to all the hardcore drugs. It's because he's in the habit of using something. He needs something. From the kids today in all the madrasas, in all the schools, the teachers say, speak about vape. Because little children, primary school children already got their little vape, what do you call those things? Vape cigarettes, whatever you call them. There's those gadgets, right? And they're using it. But we as parents and as educators, we need to educate them and make them understand that this is not good for you. That's one gateway. The gateway drug that has always been there is weed. Now there are many people, a bit of a sensitive thing, but many people in our 50s and 60s are using weed. Last night we had one brother who came here to the office quite late, and this guy is on drugs and he's wreaking havoc at home there. You know what's his justification? My dad smokes weed. What's the problem? Why you guys are coming down on me? My father smokes weed. So there are many of the older generations that I have to say it, but sometimes Musallis are the first stuff also. On weekends, they call it casual weed smokers. Brothers, haram is haram. You know, no one sitting in this room or no Muslim, sane Muslim will consume pork, right? Because it's haram. Weed is also haram. I can't say, no, I'll have a pork sandwich on a weekend. On the weekend, it's fine. But that's what's happening in our communities. As Wasim was explaining, it's starting to become normalized. People are becoming desensitized. There's a small little video here on weed, inshallah. Let's watch this one.
Form in which the intoxicant may be presented or consumed does not change the ruling, whether it is imbibed in the form of hot beverages or in the form of cold fizzy drinks, or whether it is infused into the hookah or the e-cigarette and the vape, or whether it is eaten in the form of pot cookies or space muffins. It will always have the psychoactive ingredient, the mind-altering chemical, tetrahydrocannabinol, THC, which is responsible for the high that is experienced. The common sentiment echoed by many youth goes something like this. Ah, man, you guys, everything is haram for you. How bad can marijuana be? It's natural. It's from the earth. It's a plant, for crying out loud. And what about the health benefits? The noble Quran always gives us direction. وَإِثْمُهُمَا أَكْبَرُ مِنْ نَفْعِهِمَا. The harms far outweigh its benefits. There is no need for weed in order to succeed.
Yesterday we had a program at one of the madrasas, and a little child, 8 or 10 years old, the same question this child asked, doesn't weed have health benefits? Coming from a little child. So we can see where the mind is going, the desensitization of these things, that it's normal. And he must have heard his cousins or his brother or someone talking, no, there's health benefits. So we have to understand that this is a habit and this is a scourge that will destroy everything we have. Yes, let's start with some open up the floor, Bismillah.
We understand that it is haram and prohibited. But at the same time, as much as there's scientific evidence to show the harm of it, there's also scientific evidence to prove health benefits. Now, how do we draw the line, or how do we make the distinction by something which is extremely harmful and disastrous or destructive, and something that is beneficial and useful?
Okay, so to come in there, Maulana, it comes down to need. If, for example, you're a cancer patient, you're in extreme pain, stage 4, stage 3, yes, then those benefits apply to you. But if you're looking at a grade 3, grade 4, the medical benefit is irrelevant because there's no need for it. You know, so when we come to that topic of haram and halal, and there are medical benefits, I 100% agree with you. But most of the people abusing this thing don't need the medical benefits that it offers. So, you know, the need again is a created thing. So when we speak about addiction, we speak about a three-part disease. We speak about a disease, obsession of the mind, compulsion of the body, which leads to the spiritual bankruptcy. And what this means is my obsessive mind keeps thinking about it. What this does is it creates a physical compulsion, a feeling, better known as the phenomenon of craving. When I satisfy this craving over and over again, I start building tolerance towards it. So what does that mean? It means I now need to smoke more than I initially needed to achieve the same results. It's a matter of time before, and take it from me, I started there with weed. I started there and I ended up on crack cocaine and heroin. Never in my dreams did I think I was going to be an addict. I went to a private school. I studied under a good guy. I went to university. I didn't ever in my life plan to be an addict. My idea was that it's just weed. I can manage it. It's a weekend thing. You know, I can sleep it off tomorrow. I'll carry on with school. I should only smoke at night. I told myself all these things. Eventually, and coming from someone who's been there, eventually got to the point where I only use on days ending in a Y, you know? And this was some of the delusions that I still told myself. You know, a lot of our guys that come to the center, they say they use weed because they can't sleep. You don't have an option there. 1, 2 days, you're sleeping. You know, so it's all these things. We call it a faulty belief system. You know, and part, a good example of that faulty belief system is that in the center, if I take all my boys and I put them in a circle, and my mentor explained this to me in a very beautiful way. He said, if I put all of you guys here now and I put your drug of choice on the floor, what happens? You start developing a craving, you start getting a feeling, whatever, because we don't fully understand. And I think this is where we need to educate our kids. We don't fully understand the difference between haram and halal. So we put that there, what happens? We start getting a craving now, we start entertaining the idea of it. But if I take 1,000 pigs and put it in the center, no one gets a craving because they understand that as haram. So we need to play on this thing. We need to show them what is going on. We need to speak to them about it, you know, and make them understand that there's no difference. It's not conditional. You know, this is something that a lot of kids, because they're now seeing these stores all over the place, they're feeling like, you know what, this is like a takeaway shop. We go to takeaway shops, so it's open and it's easy to access. And then some of the other things that we need to definitely speak about and look at.
With regards to Marana's question, I get this question very often. So in the plant itself, there are many compounds, many chemicals, two common ones that are taken out and used. One is THC, right? That has the psychoactive ingredient, which actually gives you the high, right? And then you have the CBD. So the question comes over, but CBD is fine. You know, there's no problem with CBD. Yes, CBD has health benefits, but it also has a certain level of certain level of potential to intoxicate you. Now, when it comes to the actual meds, the problem today, you walk into these stores or you walk into any store today, there are creams, there's oil, hair oil, there's toothpaste. We had one youngster came to the center there and we checked through his things, we couldn't find anything, but he had a cream that was infused with THC. So being absorbed through the skin, still getting high, right? So the point here is this, that this is a new lucrative market in South Africa. Right? Wasim used to grow at one stage, he'll tell you about that story, right? But it's a big business, and people are now taking it and using it. So when it actually comes to the masla itself, I had this discussion with some muftis. Some of the muftis are sitting at the back also, mashallah. In extreme cases of epilepsy and cancer, extreme cases, when there's no other alternative, then this particular thing can be used. Other than that, there is no grounds for it. The floor is open, inshallah. Any other questions?
First, he got admitting he was speaking. Eventually, when he started, I tried him to open up. So he's speaking to me and he's telling me that, you know, Morana, and I was taking it. I said at that time it was clean, but instead I was taking it to lose weight. Mashallah, big sense. Lose weight, but I wasn't getting intoxicated. I said that you can't, it's a true opposite. You're telling me you're taking it, and you're getting it, you know, you're not getting high. Not being sense, you're not losing weight either, and you're not getting high. But they said, no, I stopped now. This is what was my situation and that.
Right. So the biggest problem we do have with parents, with users, everybody is in denial. What I'm doing is not so bad. I can manage it. I take it when I want to. It's not controlling me. I'm controlling it. This is the biggest deception. This is addiction itself. You make excuses for something that is harmful and something that is detrimental. You're making excuses. I mean, we discussed with these guys last night also that came. The same thing this guy is saying. My dad is smoking. The other cousin used to smoke. So they create every type of excuse. And they're still in denial. They haven't come to terms to say, I'm powerless. This thing is controlling me and I need help. Right? So that's how. And then obviously there's that hadith also that speaks about whether you take something in large quantities or in a small quantity, right? It's still going to be haram because it is an intoxicant. So someone says, I smoke weed, nothing happens to me. The mere fact that you smoked weed, whether something happens to you or not, it's haram. So that's the. Any other questions?
Is there an alternative for it? If somebody is addicted to drugs, it's hard for him to get out of the problem. What's the way out of it for him? You need to find out that for them.
Yes. Okay, so treating addiction. Number one, it's acceptance. You've got to bring that person to a point, and as Molana at the back there shared, I think that's the first thing. Thinking that safe environment where this person can openly speak to you, this non-judgmental environment. Another very, very important thing that us as counselors always have to put first is confidentiality. If somebody is coming to me and they need to know that what happens within my office is extremely confidential, and I value their confidentiality, I give them that feeling of safety, So what happens then is that we've got to look at a treatment facility, or we've got to look at counseling. So again, important to identify the underlying issue. Why is this person using? How long is this person using? Is this person abusing substance, or is he in chronic addiction already? Has he already moved on to that stage? What is he using? What are the withdrawal symptoms of that? The more difficult your withdrawal symptoms, the more difficult it will be to leave the substance because of the physical discomfort. So these are all factors that we need to factor in. And then facilities like ourselves, Molester Wellness Center, the Darul Ihsan, we need to see, is it something that we can manage on our own? So for example, if a student is coming in and is telling, they've been smoking for the last 1-2 months, obviously we go with the counseling approach first before referring him to a treatment center, see how that goes, monitor progress. If we notice that there's a change, alhamdulillah, we carry on working with the student, motivating them, keeping them, in a disciplined regime. However, if you try those approaches and it's not working, we get the family involved. We create a safe space for people in substance abuse to come in to speak. And then if those things are now failing, now we have to look at a more hardcore approach where you can send them to a treatment center where they will undergo a detox, they will undergo family therapy, group therapy, individual therapy. There is also a program that we use that we would like to share with you guys. So we use a program called Narcotics Anonymous, and it's a greatly misunderstood program. The program speaks a lot about higher power as he may express himself to you. For us as Muslims, it's very simple. Our higher power is Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. But the way this program was written, and the reason it was written this way, is that people from all walks of life, from all different faiths, can have a program to help them with substance abuse. The reason it was designed this way is that the problem with addicts is we look for the differences. I'm going to give you a good example. When I just came into recovery a good couple of years ago, when people used to share, I used to sit there and I used to say, oh, I'm not that bad. No, not me. No, this guy, what he's saying doesn't apply to me. When I learned to look at the similarities instead of the differences, I made not be using what he's using, but I also give my people the run around. I also pitch up late for work. I also can't keep a job. So then I started noticing, but hey, me and that guy is not so different. And we have to create those platforms. So there is something called the Narcotics Anonymous program. It is very, very effective. We've had good results with it. On that as well, myself and Molana are looking at bringing a more Islamic perspective into that program, and it will be available soon, inshallah.
Sorry to interject. I think if I understand what Moana was asking, is if there's, we're not talking about the therapy program, and then Moana is saying, if I can't take weed, like how now we're boycotting Coke, so we've got Kingsley, you know, and Ui.
Okay.
So now that is like a fuller, it satisfies the craving or the need that we have. So maybe we're looking for a halal drug. I don't know, they don't halal drugs.
Okay,
So
so
like something a person can take, like a quick fix.
okay, so to be quite a bottom line here, there's no quick fix to addiction. If we think about this logically, right? A lot of people think, and we meet this a lot with our patients. Many celebrities, and the reason I only mention celebrities is to understand the amount of wealth behind them. Many celebrities die from their addictions because you cannot buy the solution. The fix is the program. The program is a new way to learn. So I've been in addiction for 15 years plus. I used hardcore stuff. I was, what we like to say, the rock bottom. I was homeless. I was in prison. I've been through the mill. And when I found this program, it offered me a new way to learn. It offered me a conscious contact with a power greater than myself. What this did for me was it allowed me to, at my own pace, practice deen, practice all my amals, practice it, but at a pace that was comfortable to me. Today, it's a part of my life. Today, those things, this program has replaced my need to use. My yaqeen has grown to such a level where I don't need to pick up. I know it's going to be okay. I know when I turn to Allah, you see, I do something called step 3 every day. I say, Ya Allah, you take my life. You take my will, you take my life. Because when I run on self-will, I run riot. So you take my will and my life. You show me how to love. And that's what this program offers. The program also speaks about a spiritual awakening. When you start to make a personal relationship. So in step 12, it speaks about as a result of this, having had a spiritual awakening, as a result of these steps, we try to help those who still suffer. So after I found a new way, it was my duty to help my brothers. And again, it's khidmat of deen, so the alternative is to give this person a new way to live. But one drug is not better than the other.
To come in here also, let's take it 1 or 2 steps back. Why do people start taking drugs? And we got about 5 videos, short videos. We can play them and we can discuss each scenario there. What we've seen is the broad overview is one is sport. So he's got everything: car, money, freedom. So obviously he's looking for entertainment, right? And the easy entertainment, you pick up something, some substance, you pop it, you feel nice, and that's how you spend your days and your weeks. So that's one type of addict that comes to us at the center. Self-entitled, instant gratification, full of himself. One brother messaged us and said, "I'm saying my brother, well, let me tell you, he's a narcissist. Just watch him." Right. So we got, according to his brother, he's a narcissist. Right. So so that's one type. The second type is a bit more serious, where there are underlying issues. He was sexually abused when he was small. He was bullied. Low self-esteem because of some trauma that he experienced in his life. And sometimes for years he's carrying that emotional baggage with him, doesn't know how to deal with it. So he just numbs himself all the time. So when these people come to us, the first thing we need to do is work out what type of addict is this and where is he coming from. And from there, we have a individual treatment program for each one. Right, so that's a long. What time we're taking a break at another 10 minutes? check. I think we have a short break. We can. I think we take.
Share.
The problem is better of substance abuse, the small places of interfering children being as power. That is not question. Integral via various social platforms on the net, they begin losing respect for their homes, they develop anger against their status. There's some irritation.
Okay, there's a long question that has come online here. The long and short of the question is with regards to social media addiction and how the youth are being influenced. So that bayan was last night's bayan in Stanger. I definitely agree with these sentiments. I gave a very detailed explanation last night on this particular thing. But this is also an addiction, social media addiction. And again, at what age do you put a phone in the hand of your child? We need to understand. So last night I said this, when you give, I know children and families that children in grade 1 and 2 got smartphones. For the life of me, why do you give a child who is in grade 1 or grade 2 his or her own phone? So what I mentioned last night was, when you give a child a phone, you have not introduced that child to the world, but you've introduced the entire world to the child. We're living in a sick world. The people who are really, really sick out there, and our children are following these influences. And so that's a topic on its own that we did discuss last night. How does one make teenagers realize the harms of vaping? So I did have this discussion in many of the schools we went to, but what's wrong with vaping? You know, so it's exactly, it's the nicotine craving. And the difference is, it doesn't smell bad, it smells nice, right? So that's the only thing. One youngster told me, no, Mona, when you vape, you actually benefit mankind. You benefit mankind. I would like to know that. You vape, then you make clouds. That's the youth of today. So on a serious note now, research it. There's something called popcorn lungs. But research it. With excessive vaping, it affects your lungs. It's a lung infection that sometimes can become irreversible also. So there are many harms of vaping and smoking.
So just before we close for the break, we're just gonna run through, Jim, is there a question? Inshallah, when he comes back, no problem. So some of the protective factors that we can look at, protective factors that reduce the likelihood of substance abuse include strong family support. And we all know family support is changing nowadays. Our family dynamics are changing. You know, as Molana explained last night, we live under one roof in different worlds. You know, one part of the house is watching football, kids are sitting on their phones. You know, everyone is in different parts of the house, all in their own world. We need to bring back these strong family values. Another thing is positive peer relationships. Make sure you know who your students are with, what kind of friends they keep. For children, same thing. Know the kind of friends they keep, know what they get involved in when they're leaving the house, know who they go with. Make it your duty to know the parents of your students and so on. Involvement in extracurricular activities. As educators, it is our duty to see that where we have these problems, we need to offer things to our students that keep them out of the streets. You know, whether it's a weekend program, soccer tournaments, whatever it may be, we need to keep our youth out of the streets because there's so much going on. And the main thing is to understand we can't change the world around us. But those who we can influence, we need to make the facilities available for them. Prevention and intervention strategies, school-based programs, developing skills to resist peer pressure and promoting healthy behaviors. So maybe once a term on a weekend or something, we can have a school outing based on substance abuse education. setting healthy boundaries, peer confrontation, those kind of things. That is also part of our program in the center. We have to teach our guys how to take accountability and responsibility for their actions. And if we can start instilling that in our children from a young age, inshallah, they can grow up with that mindset of being accountable and being responsible for themselves. Um, Another thing is early intervention. Early identification of substance abuse risk allows for timely intervention through counseling, support services, and collaboration with parents and community. Now, the one thing I've seen, I've asked people when we speak about the socio-economic issue, I've had so many people come to me and say, you know what, I want to go for treatment, I want help, but I can't afford it. I don't know where to go. So we need to make these things like the drug awareness drive, facilities like Darul Ihsan, facilities at our school, whether it's once a day, we just host one classroom open for people needing help to be able to anonymously come in, put down their name and their details or whatever it may be, so that we can assist them through facilities like Muldersdrift Wellness Center, Darul Ihsan, and other services as well, so that they know help is available. One of the biggest things about addiction today is that people affected by drugs do not know there's a way out. You know, you get into this darkness and it feels like you're never going to see the light again. No, fortunately for me, I found people who are willing to show me the way. So there's a quick story about this. Why a lot of people ask me, why a counselor? You know, from a drug addict to an addiction counselor. And it's pretty simple. There's the story of a man who's stuck in a hole and he's an addict. And the doctor walks past and he says, Doctor, can you help me? I'm stuck in a hole. And the doctor says, I'm in a rush, but I can give you some tablets, make you forget you're in the hole. You know, so he gives him some tablets, and for a short while, the man is okay. He's a bit more comfortable. And when the tablets wear off, he's still stuck in the hole. You know, and somebody else walks past, and this person happens to be a psychologist, and the psychologist sits with him for a few minutes and they have a discussion and they identify how he got into the hole and that kind of thing. And at the end of the conversation, the man is still stuck in the hole. Another addict walks past and he says, can you please help me? I'm stuck in this hole for a while now. And the addict jumps into the hole. Bear in mind, the guy in the hole is an addict as well. And he says, what are you doing? Are you crazy? The addict says, I've been in this hole before and I know the way out. And that's the difference with what we're trying to do. We are people who have been there. We are people who can hold your hand and show you the way out. We are those who are willing to stand in the darkness and hold the light for those who are still lost. So what we have to do is we have to have early interventions and then the roles of teachers.
Okay, so brothers, just to give, we've got an hour left to give an overview of what's left for the program. So inshallah, we can have a short break now, mental break, and stretch the legs out a bit. The tea will come just now, inshallah. While we're sitting here, we're trying just to upload these 5 videos that we're going to talk about. So while that is happening, you guys can stretch a bit and wait for the tea to come, and we'll try and set up these videos, inshallah. Right? While this is happening, I would like to call upon Ali first.
Let's bring Ali up.
Let's bring Ali up to share his experience. He was at our center, mashallah, for 6 months. And alhamdulillah, it's clean. From what month? Ali was there? October last year, alhamdulillah.
Almost a year. So just some background on Ali, you know. And I met Ali. Ali wasn't the man that standing in front of you guys, you know. Ali didn't believe there was a way out. You know, he wanted a way out, but he didn't know how to get out. When we speak about addiction, Ali was like me. I have to say we were the real McCoys, you know, the hardcore people who have seen the bitter ends. And mashallah, you know, Ali is, you know, if I show you guys a picture of Ali when he came in, I showed him a picture before he left. He didn't recognize himself. You know, and that's how far he's come, and he works this program. And without further ado, he's going to share some of his experience, strength, and hope with you guys, inshallah.
Assalamu alaikum. Wa alaikum assalam. I use my name when I'm an addict. So how I started to become an addict was when I was in school, I used to smoke weed a lot. I used to be the big boss. I used to sell weed, smoke weed, bunk classes with all the other kids. I used to be that old. So after that, I found weed boring. Then I started smoking other kind of drugs. I don't know how I ended up on heroin because I hated heroin. But I ended up with heroin. Yeah, so I was addicted to heroin for a very long time. I went to prison because of heroin. And when I came out of prison, I was getting angry at my family for not taking me out of prison, for not bailing me out. And meanwhile, I'm the one that put myself in this mess. And it was very hard at that point. And heroin was one drug that I really hated. And what I can say, heroin put me on the streets. I used to be on the streets a lot. I slept in the streets. My house was like 10 minutes away, but I chose to sleep under the bridges. Used to steal. When everyone used to wake up and go to work at time, when people come back from work, I used to go. A lot of people. I used to break into people's houses when they I used to steal clothes to get my heroin. And heroin is one drug that was so addictive. People control my life. I didn't want to smoke anymore. But then heroin told me, you know what, you belong to me now. You used to smoke, you used to enjoy it. And now you don't want me. I'm not gonna leave you. You belong to me now. Whenever I say wake up, you're gonna wake up. So heroin used to wake me up late, maybe around 11 o'clock because of the cravings. It's called a roster. Now that cravings wakes you up, it's like a like twist your insides. It tells you, you know what? Now get up, be my slave, and let's go to work. Do what you have to do so you can get my heroin. And after that, I will leave you alone. So that's what happened. I used to smoke, and then I even told my family that, you know what, please try to help me out. I don't want to do this kind of thing anymore. I'm tired of making people cry. I'm tired of people coming to my house complaining that I stole, I did this, I did that. So my mother asked me, are you ready now? I used to tell her, yeah, I'm ready. But at that time, I wasn't ready because the drug was controlling my mind. The drug was telling me, hey, you know what? Me and you are married for life. No. And I never used to believe that one day I'll be standing here in front of all of you beautiful people and telling you about my story, And
Can you share your experience at the same time?
yeah, my experience at the same. Wow, man. First day when I first came, I thought I was dreaming because it's what I wanted, I wanted this change. But at the same time, I'm from Durban, but I'm in Joburg. I asked myself, how did I come? How did I get to Joburg so quick? In my mind, I forgot that I was traveling. Because in the morning, I told myself, hey, you know what? Let me go hustle my money to get my escape. No, not remembering that, hey, I'm in Joburg. So in rehab, and my experience in rehab was nice. I learned a lot. Got my Molana, got brother Wasim. They were there to support me at all times. Because me, as a heroin addict, you get emotional. There's emotions that come inside you. You're like asking yourself, what's going on? Am I becoming like acting like a woman or something? In the meanwhile, it's the emotions. It's like, I don't know, there's something that happens in your mind. You become like a baby. Yeah, man. So drugs are very dangerous, guys. It plays with your emotions. Once you're out of the drugs, it plays with your emotions. And once a drug addict, it's not easy to come out of it. You must work the program. And you can't do it yourself. You can't do it at home. If you're on drugs, you'll be lying to yourself by saying, I will try to give up drugs at home. Because you can't do it alone. You must be around other addicts, people that are just like you, who know that what they want is this, you know.
What did the program teach you? Program, the center, what did it teach you?
The program teaches me three things, you know. First of all, the places that I used to go, I must forget about those places. The playground. The playground is the places like the drug houses, the places where I used to sleep there, the place there, and the people that I used to play around with, my group and all of that. I must just forget about those things and I must just live a new way of life. And by that, it's by me accepting that I'm an addict. And I found a new way of life. Thank you very much, guys.
Yeah. There's no sign.
Using drugs has become a norm society. I was the lucky one who survived it and failed. I saw like many old
Coming to the projector. Where's the speaker? Speaker on it.
destroy their life. Because of substance abuse, our community. Many young boys and girls have become My name is Abdullah. I grew up in the Cape Flats. I was exposed to drug and substance abuse from the tender age of 5. Literally everyone around me was abusing tuk. Tuk is a form of crystal meth. Growing up in this environment, using drugs had become a norm of society. I was the lucky one who the Almighty had spared. I saw with my very own eyes, literally, hundreds of friends, family, and neighbors who had destroyed their lives because of substance abuse. Our community is shrinking. Many young boys and girls have become victims of substance and drug abuse. The extreme poverty and peer pressure of my community has literally destroyed the next generation. The underprivileged communities of South Africa need your help. What assistance can you offer us?
Okay, so this was the first video. What we've done here, we've got 5 broad categories of different types of communities and their challenge with substance abuse. So this
So it is definitely important for us to understand what our children are going through, what our peers are going through, and what are the factors that are leading them to need something to use to escape from reality. Our program offers this in the form of a new way to live, and it is exactly that. It is learning to develop healthy habits, coping mechanisms, and a new outlook on life, perspective. So for those of you who couldn't hear me, make me laugh. We will be opening the floor for questions. You can post your questions online and we will address them. I have a question there in the back.
At the door. Find them is an addict. And he goes to the treatment here of methadone as a statement, and that falls again to another addiction, the same treatment. I always want to avoid. I always want to avoid that because he's a drug addict. He's once a way out and he gets the treatment. The treatment, maybe they give him a prescription like methadone. Methadone itself is a drug.
100%.
So he gets into methadone, he falls out of that drug problem, he falls into another drug problem, which is the prescription that he's given. So all this one against that here now can.
Okay, so methadone is synthetic heroin. That's what it is. And what is been done there is not necessarily treatment. It is a less harmful alternative. So it is a controlled substance. When we buy heroin in the street, for example, we don't know what's in there. So the person is getting addicted, number one, to the opiate that is in it, and number two, to everything else it's been cut with. What methadone does is it gives you a high dosage of opiates and slowly allows you to wean yourself off. The negative thing about that kind of a treatment is that I don't suffer from drugs. I suffer from an addictive personality. Now, what I'm training myself to do is to still have to have something outside of myself. So it becomes very easy to cross the dict onto something else. So all of us, Shukar, we've come through a 12-step program and we believe in complete abstinence, so much so that we don't even use painkillers. We don't use medication. You see, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has created this body in a way that it can heal itself. It has the ability to heal itself. So we try as much as possible in our program and in our treatment center to teach guys not to put foreign substances into their body, be it prescribed or bought on the streets. To touch on this a little bit further, I'm going to call up Yasin. Ali and Asif have told you about the ugly side of addiction. Yasin's going to tell you guys about the beautiful side of recovery.
Phone number or your questions, please forward all questions, especially for the sister side, and all those who are on the webinar. So 071 890 4705. Again, 071 890 4705. Please send your questions on the WhatsApp, inshallah, and we will address it. 071 890 4705. Jazakallah. Actually, Yasin was also at our center and still clean, alhamdulillah, back home now and doing well, alhamdulillah.
Assalamu alaikum. My name is Yasin, I'm an addict. I always introduce myself like that because I have to remind myself daily that I am an addict, and addiction is not something that goes away. Now, let me just try and figure this out. All right. So, alhamdulillah, I am clean still today. I work a program that focuses me, that allows me to focus on working just for today. You know, I can't think about the future and I can't change the past. I didn't get addicted in one day. I can't recover in one day. It's a lifelong journey for me. I'm going to touch, before I go into anything else, I'm going to touch onto the program It's my way of understanding it. So we have 12 steps, and my summarized version of it. The first one is I can't. I can't do this alone, you know. Um, uh, the second one is Allah can. Um, third one is let go, let Allah. So my first step was I'm powerless over my addiction, and my life has become unmanageable. Wow. So that's what it means, but I can't do this anymore. I can't live my life anymore. I can't function as a normal human being. Uh, Step four, making a searching and fearless moral inventory of myself. That means I have to look within. Step five, admitting my wrongs, admitting to myself, to another human being, uh, the exact nature of my wrongs. Step six, I was ready for self change. Step seven, I sought Allah's help through this change. Step eight, I became willing to let Allah change me because there's no point looking and me not accepting this change. Number nine was making amends to those I've hurt. Um, this journey of addiction, terrible journey, I would call it a journey, is nightmare of addiction. Uh, I've done a lot of wrong things. We will touch on that a little bit, but step 10 for me is doing a daily inventory of myself. So every day I sit down, I ask myself, was I dishonest? Was I resentful? Do I owe anybody an apology? Did I make any effort to build my spiritual contact with God, with myself? Step 11 was pray and meditate. As Muslims, we have five fard salah that's obligatory upon us, but also we can. I pray in a different way as well. I sometimes just sit in my masala, I sit on my bed, and I talk to Allah. And step 12, the most important for me is giving it away, giving this message away. So I'm going to talk about my addiction. I grew up in a nice, loving home, I didn't grow up with my parents. I grew up mostly with my grandparents. Was in between my mother and father. But I had good structural background. My grandfather, he's late now, he was a very prominent figure in the community. I don't want to take his name, but if I do, people will recognize him. Um, you know, he taught me the good stuff in life. I was someone, when it came to drugs, uh, I didn't like it. I didn't like the idea of it. When I saw friends doing it, I would take it and urinate on it. I would tell them this is not life. But I had gone through few things in life that I didn't know affected me. And my addiction didn't start with drugs. My addiction started with a lot of other things. So substance abuse came later. Um, my addiction started with cars, with women, with money, at a young age, I started letting things outside of my body make me feel better. So money was one of my downfalls. I had access to a lot of money. Like my dad used to keep money in the house on top of the geyser. And when he wasn't around, I just go in, take some money out and I'll spend it. He was a car salesman, so you always had to have cash at home. And at first, he never questioned it because I used to lie to him and tell him, I'm taking money for cigarettes, for tuck shop at school and stuff like that. And at the time, I didn't realize that this was my addiction. I just used money to feel good. I used to spend money on silly things just to feel good. I'll buy someone else a pie and coke to make them like me so I can feel better about myself. And I mean, that's my addiction starting right there. I used drugs for 16 years of my life. In that time, I was oblivious to what I was doing. Just the other day, I was talking to a friend of my mom's, and she knows me from a young boy, and she asked me, "So, how long were you using for?" And I told her from the age of 14, and she was shocked, and she said, you hit this very well." And that's the problem in the community with me. Um, I was scared to approach anyone because this addiction is looked upon is frowned upon. If you go to someone and tell them I'm a drug addict, the first reaction is, hey, go from here, go from here. and sadly, not trying to bring anyone down, but in our Muslim community, we are free to address the situations. And, going forward, I felt scared to come out and tell people. It was about 4 years ago where I'd lost a lot of business opportunities. I lost a lot of things in my life, relationships with my parents, relationships with everyone. And that was the first time I said, I have a problem, I want to solve it. But I only did that because I got caught using, and I didn't have the determination to do it. And they sent me to a program, not even to a program, to a detox, and it never did anything for me. And Shukr Alhamdulillah, okay, well, 3 years of addiction carried on. Shukr Alhamdulillah, last year I got myself kicked out of the house, had nowhere to go. I was basically roaming the streets. And Shukr to Mulana Amir, he passed the message to another brother that owns a restaurant on the road I used to walk on every day. He passed Mulana Zakaria's number, and I only found that out recently that Mom, Mohammed passed you gave Mohammed the number. And I'm grateful for you doing that because I was looking for help at that time. I remember sitting on the beach last year August, with a gun in my hand because I couldn't take this anymore. And I felt like I had no iman left. And if you get to that point where you feel like you have no iman, I promise you, it's not a good thing. But I joined this program and I went to Mulder's Wellness Center, and I was skeptical and I wanted to know what is any program. When I got there the first night, my detox room was facing the classroom where the meetings happen, and I saw guys sitting in a circle. I could only see a few guys, but I could see they were happy. They were, they loving life, and I'm like, hey, what's going on here? And Shukar, the next day I came out and I was introduced to everything. I had a few guys give me a small rundown, and every morning we do it like a belly check, and I sat there and I looked around me, and there's people from all walks of life. They all suffer the same problem as me, and they share it and they feel good to share it. I felt safe, I felt like I could talk and no one's going to judge me. And that was the first step of me actually going into this program because I was in addiction. I always wanted to fit in, but I fitted in and I had no fear of being, standing out and being like the rotten apple. So I started working this program with wholeheartedness because I knew I can't go back to where I was. And I work this program every day in my life and the benefits of it. I told Mulana this before I left. I feel like a Muslim again. I feel like Muslim. I wake up sometimes and I say, Ya Allah, just thank you for another day. Thank you for waking me up. And it's only because I follow this program. So this program is a little frowned upon because people don't understand it. This program is not about sitting in a circle and, it's not a cult to say. People think it's a cult. It's not a cult. This program taught me how to be a Muslim again. This program taught me the fundamental of life, honesty, open-mindedness, integrity. The list goes on. There's about 90 principles that I've written down that I've learned in this program. And I'm a brother again. It allows me to be a brother. It allows me to be a son. It allows me to be a neighbor. I wasn't even trusted in my house. Today, I have house keys in my pocket. I'm left alone. Why? Because I follow this program and people in my life, they can see the difference. Today, those days, I used to hear the Azan and I used to run. Why? Because I used to run away from the mosque, walk past the mosque and go to the dealer. Today, I hear the Azan, my first reaction is, do I have wudu? And it's only because of this program. Today, people are phoning me. Those days, my number showed up on someone's phone. They cut the call or they put their phone off, they blocked the number. Today, this week, I had someone in my family phone me and say, my neighbor is suffering, can you come talk to him? This program allows me to do that. And I'm ever so grateful I've met Wasim and Mulana. Wasim has made a beautiful program. My experience through this program, I can't put it in words. I went in broken. My up put together now, and every day that I I work on myself. I feel this piece is getting glued back together. So I like to say this, I'll get close with this, is recovery didn't open the gates of heaven and let me in. Recovery opened the gates of hell and let me out. So Jazakallah brothers for letting me share. And hand over to Masih.
Jazakumullah Yasin. MashaAllah, we're proud of you. Doing very well. Allah Ta'ala keep you with istiqamat. MashaAllah. Ali, MashaAllah. Asif, MashaAllah.
Question which has been posed. Assalamu alaikum. At what age should we start teaching our learners about the harms of drugs and how do we go about this?
Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Okay, so that's a very important question with regards to when are children ready to understand this. The first thing we need to understand is our children, kids to exposed to many things at a very young age that probably my generation was never exposed to, and then at such a tender age, right? As I said earlier, the world has become a global village. Everyone has their devices. Children are interacting. There are kids who are interacting online much more than actually face to face. So at a very young age, we went to one madrasa and the principal called me and said, "See, Mona, you want all the children or should I leave the grade 1s and 2s?" I said, no, include everyone. Say, but no, these young ones, they don't know about drugs and, why we're going to corrupt their minds. And I said, no, it's okay. I know how to introduce the topic. The whole madrasa said that I stood in front and I said, where are the grade 1s and 2s? You're sitting right in front. You'll hear something about, can one of you tell me about what is drugs? And do you hear about drugs? Do you know any names? And the principal is on one side, and the children started giving all the, not the names, the street names. So I said, then after the program, he said to me, no, I did not realize that the children are exposed. And this is the reality. This is the reality. So age appropriately, we need to start broaching the topic from the time they start leaving the house and going to school, from grade 1 literally, maybe even grade R. That drugs is a bad thing. And today the reality, brothers, is that in your own families or in your extended families, there's somebody that is impacted in a negative way with drug abuse. Your neighbor, your cousin, it's so common today. It's so common. Family, extended family, friends, and children. One thing we must remember, children are absolutely observant. They listen to everything. So sometimes father and mother are discussing something, someone called and the auntie said her son is on drugs. The child picked it up already. They've heard the word. My daughter is in grade R. She knows what I do. Every week when I come from the center, I have to give a karguzari. Ji, Abhi, what happened this week in the center? Children are amazing, really. So then I just tell her, no, we had this and we did that. And so the point is this, from my experience, as early as possible, but obviously age appropriately, right? And if there is a drug addict in our family, it could be a cousin, it could be somebody, and the children will overhear, then tell them, see, there is someone, you'll heard about it, make dua for him, he's not well, he's using drugs now, and, make Allah Ta'ala make it easy for him, he's gone to a rehab center. We have to talk to our children about these realities before they get exposed to it via some other wrong medium, their friends or the internet or something else, inshallah. So that's my experience. Any other question? From the floor, any questions? Jimana? Alaikum salam.
A child ran away from home and he lived with his grandparents who enables him. And she's finding it difficult for her to get her child back in her care, even though now he's older, and to put him through this rehab again. Any advice for this mother?
So this particular individual, his age,
19.
19, and he's still staying with his grandparents. Okay. And still using, I'm sure.
Yeah, but it's not as harsh drugs as it was. It's just lean now, maybe, and weed. But it's the thing that gets him now is this lean.
Right. The problem with the grandparents is that they are in denial, obviously, right? That's the biggest problem. And that is one of the major stumbling blocks for anybody that wants to recover. The addict himself or his family. Generally, it's the parents, grandparents, or whoever that person is getting support from. Now, this is another reason, as Wasim also highlighted, we need to educate the community. It's not taboo. Your son or your daughter picked up a bad habit, they fell into this scourge of drugs. We are here to support you. The first step of recovery is to come out of denial. If you're still in denial, you're never going to get the help. You're never going to reach out for the help. I tell the guys also at the center over and over. In fact, yesterday we were at another center in Stanger. We went to talk to them there. So I said to the guys, your recovery starts the day you as an individual admit and acknowledge I am the problem. It's not my mom, it's not my dad, it's not my siblings, it's not my wife, it's not my boss. I am the problem. When you admit that and you accept that, then you have started your recovery. But if you haven't come to that realization, no one can help you. So the mother needs to work with the grandparents and say, see, our son has a problem. Let's help him. He has a problem. Let's admit it. He has a problem. Yes, the whole community doesn't need to know. We've got some people, they run a rehab quietly. We send him there and inshallah, we get him sorted out. So that's the best way to approach it, inshallah.
So on the question of leave, I like what Mulana said. It's not that bad. It's lean. It's not that bad. I only tried and they said, no matter why, That wasn't bad. Mulana, we have to understand what we're dealing with. What is lean? Let's break it down. Lean is cough syrup. What is the active ingredient in these cough syrups that they are using, mixing with cool drinks? That's essentially what lean is cough syrup mixed with cool drink. You take large doses of it, you start feeling this euphoric effects. It is a central nervous depressant as well. So this cough syrup, what is it in cough syrup that makes you feel this way? Why this particular cough syrups? Because they contain codeine. Codeine is part of the opiate family. Opiates, and the street name for opiates is heroin. Lean contains the exact same active ingredient as sugar, nyaupe, unga, caps. I know they call it here, but they call it caps. It's exactly the same thing. It's the same active ingredient. So we have to, this is again where the education comes in, where we have to know what we're dealing with, The other thing is that I was just thinking as I was sitting there, maybe at schools we can dedicate a classroom or a wall in the school or something as an awareness wall. And we make posters and put it up there where our learners can know, hey, you know what that looks like. That's what that is. This is drugs or whatever. Maybe a learner is scared to come up to a muallim or a muallima directly, but from being there and seeing these things, he now is able to identify, and you can have an educator or whatever who monitors, kids who are often going there, and start with that. Start with the kids who you find standing by the posters and looking at it, and make it a kind of fun activity, a ground level thing. We've got to get children to understand from the ground level, where is it accessed? What are the forms it comes in? Because sooner or later, whether we are protecting our homes from it, we can't protect our children from the world out there. We have to educate them so that they can protect themselves. So, there's a lovely story. Somebody told me once, and I've heard the story in AA, and somebody told me once, but I'm going back to a very bad area, and how am I going to stay clean? I stay right next door to the dealer. On a Friday, he calls me to come and test, all the new stuff he gets. I don't even pay for my drugs, So, and
this was the reality of it. This boy was getting bags. I mean, street values of what would be 2,000 to 3,000 rand every weekend. He was the coolest kid on the block for all the other users, you know, because he had a dealer right next door who would cut and pack his stock and give him all the offcuts to test, you know. So this is the kind of world we're living into, you know. And the story in AA goes something like this. There was an old alcoholic sitting and he was indulging and he was reading a newspaper. And this little boy, his son, comes to him and says, Dad, you can play ball with me. And he says, I'm coming just now. And the boy comes back and he says, Dad, you know, I came to you a while ago. Can we play ball now? And he says, I'll come just now. And the third time the boy comes back, this man is pretty fed up because he wants to have his drink in peace. And he takes the newspaper and it's a picture of all the countries, almost like a atlas, a cover page of an atlas in the newspaper. And he tears it up and he tells the boy, when you put this together, then we'll go play ball. The boy came back 5 minutes later and he gave his dad the picture. And the father stood there and he was amazed as to how did this child get this right so quickly. So he asked the boy, he says, boy, how did you know where all the countries go, where everything goes in this picture? So he says, very simple, Dad. On the other side of the picture, there's a man. When you put the man together, the world came together. You know, so that's what we've got to do. We've got to educate our children from an early age. What is morals? What is values? What are challenges? It's okay not to be okay also. It's okay to be sad. And it's okay to be angry. And it's okay to feel disappointed. But it's also okay to ask for help. It's okay to talk about it. It's normal. We go through things. And I found with a lot of people, I found many cases where other counselors would phone me or other community leaders or someone phone myself, phone Mulana, and say, you know what, this is a difficult patient. And I say, no problem, send him to us or organize a phone call or whatever. And it starts at ground level. I tell you my story. I tell you where I've been and what I've been through. And all of a sudden, it's not so difficult to share your story anymore because you know a little bit about me, you know. So when we're speaking with our children, we've got to get down to their levels. We can't speak at them. We need to speak with them. We need to get down and explain to them, you know, sometimes, especially in our younger grades, you know, sometimes something you've been through, something they like, see if you have something that can assimilate with them, you know. Now what this creates is that openness. It creates that thing of open communication. And you make it a thing to check on your students, ask your students how things does that. Now what we do on a Friday is we do something called a wrap-up session. And it's quite simple. There is no obligation to participate. But what we do is we ask our guys, what were your goals for this week? Have you achieved those goals? And the guy will say, okay, my goals for this week was to do step 1 and 2. I haven't achieved it. And then we explore the feeling that is sitting behind not achieving it. So what happens now? Disappointment is now turned into understanding. Why didn't you achieve it? Okay, what can we do in the week ahead to achieve it? You know, so instead of looking backwards, we create this culture of looking forwards. And as Yasin said, the reason we say we'll work at just for today program, I don't know what's going to happen tomorrow and I can't change what happened yesterday. But today I can do my best. I have control over what I do today. And that's what it's about. If we make this thing available in our communities, you know, one of the biggest things I picked up yesterday is we did a couple of awareness programs and it's great that we want to educate our students so that prevention can take place, which is the #1 prize. But we're not gonna hit that mark on point every single time. What are we doing for guys who are already in addiction? What are we doing? So I know there's a lot of community feeding initiatives and so on, but what we need to do is we need to create safe places for these guys to meet and be able to ask for help, to be able to say straight out, you know what, I have a drug problem. To be able to say, you know what, I support my habit by stealing, and I don't want to be that person in the community anymore. And that's the kind of things we need to do. We need to get involved because addicts suffer from 3 things initially, whether it's at the young age, whether it's at the older age. It's the need for love and understanding, the need for security, and the need to belong. If we change the culture of the way people think and we make people feel like they belong, then we are winning this war already. The reason why kids isolate and why you will find that when one kid is using, most of the time the group of friends that he hangs around with is also using, or at least 2, 3 other kids are using, because they feel like they belong. They feel a part of something. Every person wants to belong. Every person wants a place they can be safe, they can be vulnerable. And that's the message that we brought here today, that we need to start creating those spaces in our schools and in our homes.
Jazakumullah, brothers. Inshallah, I think we're going to wrap it up now. Those 5 videos we played, just in 1 minute, a brief overview. So we looked at and studied the different communities. One is a poor community, underprivileged. So the dealers have all even accommodated or made drugs for the poorer people, the Munga and all those things, right? Then you get, I played one on the affluent communities. Where they're using more hardcore, more expensive drugs like cocaine. And then the one we had where a child comes from an abusive house where the parents are using. Then the 4th one was where the child comes from a house that is broken down because of divorce, and the child doesn't know how to deal with the emotions. And finally, this misnomer, I would call it functional addict. So there's no such a thing as a functional addict. A person will be able to use drugs and still keep his job, but eventually it will catch up with him. So that's the broad overview of why people will get into drug addiction. So inshallah, before I call Maulana Amir Sahib to wrap up. Yeah, so the booklet that you have there, that is the section 6. So this is a nice little resource, and inshallah, the link will be shared for the other sessions with you. That's a nice resource you can keep, and you can refer to. There are many questions in there, for you to answer also. And there's a little section there on the feedback. You guys can give us feedback to enhance the program, inshallah. To end off on the lighter side, Maulana. So while there was a bad person, a good person, sorry, started taking drugs, and he got up to every type of wrong. And eventually, in this addiction, he passes away. When he passed away, then his eyes open up somewhere. He's looking around. He doesn't know where he is. Because he was convinced that I'm going to the hellfire because there's no hope for me. I did this, X, Y, and Z. I stole and I did everything, all the wrong things. He gets up, he sees a garden. Everything is looking green and lush. So he stands up, he starts walking. Then he comes to the tree of knowledge. That's what they call it. He says, hey, this is the real green I'm looking for. He breaks a few leaves and he makes a plan and he rolls a spliff. Now, I said, right. I thought I was going to go to hell, but this is looking good. He takes it. Now he's looking for a light. Can't find a light. He walks further. Eventually, he meets Bob Marley. Hey, Bob, I need a light. Bob said, if I had a light, this would have been paradise.
MashaAllah, Jazakallah khairan to our esteemed guest for a very informative and intensive presentation. I'm sure all of us will agree that we have really been empowered and enlightened on the subject matter. Of course, as we can see, it's an ocean that we need to keep on researching and learning, and comes to a lot of experience and also continued engagement and dua and spirituality and connection with Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. It's a mixture of all of the important ingredients that will give us and also those who are struggling a way, inshallah, to find themselves the right path. May Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala protect all our youth and our children and our community and the world ummah from the scourge of drugs and addiction, which is now coming in so many different forms. Before we used to only speak about drug addiction in terms of substance, but today you can be a social media addict. And that's an addiction which has similar side effects and similar consequences as actually taking a drug. So we got to all be aware now, because we got a drug in our pocket. I don't think anybody here don't have the drug. Anybody that doesn't have a phone here, everyone got the drug in the pocket. So you got to be careful that you don't become addicted, or use it effectively, constructively, etc. So that's also another subject matter as to what types of addiction exist on the social media platforms. So in conclusion, Alhamdulillah, I'm very pleased. Brother Yasin mentioned his recovery story, and it's something that I was not aware of, and he also wasn't aware of, that we created a link through someone, and eventually Allah sent him to the center where Alhamdulillah he found a way, he found Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, he found his life back. And this is what it's about. Every person here can play a role in someone's life. He mentioned that he was sitting with a gun on the beachfront. Now, only Allah protected him there, but we can imagine what would have been the consequences if it went the other way. So we are all responsible. We have a collective responsibility, and where we can make a change, where we can bring some type of help and assistance, and let us do that. Inshallah, in that way, we will also reap the reward. The Darul Ihsan Social Department runs the guideline program, and through this guideline program, Alhamdulillah, in partnership with the Wellness Center in Zakaria and his team, we try to assist people and guide people and direct people and refer people. And this way, Alhamdulillah, we are finding that there is a lot of good engagement that is taking place and a lot of recovery that is taking place. Just a few days ago, one senior alim from one of the institutions called to say, we've got a situation, we have this person, we don't know what to do, we don't know where to start with him. It's really gone very serious. What do we do? So we guided him through the program. Inshallah, hopefully we will make contact with Rana and the things will be taken forward. So therefore, we have this facility, we have the platforms that are available. We can contribute, we can also participate, and we can make a difference. May Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala accept this program. May Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala give our young learners here, the ulama who are here, the teachers who are trained to become teachers, everyone that hopefully that together with our professions and our work, we also become community activists. We become active in all spheres so that we can protect the Ummah, we can help people. And this was the work of the Nabi Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam. The Nabi Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam helped people in all spheres of life to uplift the Ummah, because it's our Ummah, it's our community, it's our youth, and we are all part of it. May Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala grant us protection. I want to call upon Maulana Imran Saab once again to say a few words in conclusion, and inshallah thereafter we will all join us for lunch. The lunch has been prepared and we all have lunch together. And then we have an opportunity to continue networking. Our brothers are here, mashallah, they've got a lot of experience and insights into the program. Online will be available so we can continue networking, inshallah. By Imran Saab, please go ahead.
I actually came here to listen from the beginning, and I must say that the program was very, very insightful. I must thank Maulana Manju, Maulana Barchi, and the brothers who spoke. Actually, the courage that you had to come and reveal and to, in all honesty, to share in the sense of benefiting the Ummah is very admirable. It's very inspirational for me, and I'm sure for the others who are sitting here as well. And this kind of messages give us some kind of hope, inshallah. The other thing is, when we're working with communities and things like this, we find it quite difficult. But alhamdulillah, Brother Wasim also, the gems that were thrown, just in passing concerning what we can do, were very, very valuable as well. Allah Ta'ala accept, and we always use as the means of guiding people to that is correct and keep ourselves correct. Because we know even Hufaz, I know people who should take three paras a day, and they're reading 3 khatams a month, could read the Quran without any dog being done. Solid Hufaz also fell in the trap when they knew nothing of the Quran afterwards. So he doesn't leave anybody, hasn't leave any home, as you so rightfully put so many different scenarios as well. Maulana is the funding in this, so I'm going to give said I appreciate whatever you all have mentioned so far. But in terms of making a difference, the story always comes to mind that there was a person walking on the beach, and there's a whole lot of starfish on the beach, and thousands of them on the beach. So he takes one fish and he throws it back in the water and he starts moving again. Then he goes, takes another and throws it in. So somebody came to me and told us, there's thousands of these starfish here. How do you manage to do all? What difference are you going to make? So he picks up another starfish and he throws it in the water and says, I've made a difference to that one. So if you could make a difference to one person in his life, wallahi, that could be our najat in the akhirah. You don't know who on the day of Qiyamah when needed most, that would have changed, would have been that will tilt the balance for us on the day of Qiyamah, would have made that person's family better, his whole community would have changed. For generations, you could not be thanked enough for the service that you do. It looks unrewarding, but it's very fulfilling. But جعل الله في ميزان حسناتكم يوم القيامة إن شاء الله. Nobody can reward you as well as reward you. Work like this is it's a thankless job. So don't expect any appreciation from people. Do it because it's the right thing to do. Allah Ta'ala accept inshallah from all of you and everybody members get was inshallah.
بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم الحمد لله رب العالمين والصلاة والسلام على أشرف الأنبياء والمرسلين وعلى آله وصحبه أجمعين اللهم لك الحمد كما ينبغي لجلال وجهك وعظيم سلطانك ربنا ظلمنا أنفسنا وإن لم تغفر لنا وترحمنا لنكونن من الخاسرين اللهم اهدنا الصراط المستقيم صراط الذين أنعمت عليهم من النبيين والصديقين الشهداء والصالحين وحسن أولئك رفيقا ربنا لا تزغ قلوبنا بعد إذ هديتنا وهب لنا من لدنك رحمة إنك أنت الوهاب ربنا إنك جامع الناس ليوم لا ريب فيه إن الله لا يخلف الميعاد ربنا هب لنا من أزواجنا وذرياتنا قرة أعين واجعلنا للمتقين إماما ربنا تقبل منا إنك أنت السميع العليم وتب علينا يا مولانا إنك أنت التواب الرحيم وصلى الله تعالى على خير خلقه محمد وعلى آله وصحبه أجمعين برحمتك يا أرحم الراحمين